Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Many members in the million marker community are dealing with or know someone who's dealing with infertility. And in fact, approximately 1 in 8 couples are having trouble trying to conceive these days. And that number continues to rise. And losing a kid or having trouble conceiving is a very personal struggle and can be very stressful for many, many people. And in those moments, we might turn away from our partners or parents and leaning to our friends. And being that friend can also make that person step outside their comfort zone. And this is why today we're really excited to be joined by Sarah Cole, and an experienced nurse anesthetist and founding director of Hugh and Grace. Sarah is going to discuss how to support friends who are struggling with infertility. So I saw Sarah.
Oh, here you are. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much for taking the time. This is such an important topic. And then your background is really, really interesting. So
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you questions about it.
sure. Yeah, I'm honored to be here. Something that's close to my heart, so I'm happy to share.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your background and then how you become a nurse anesthetist.
Yeah,
that's it's really hard to say, but it's such an interesting position.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's so interesting because a lot of people don't know it exists, right? I mean, it's not very common. But really what we do is I started out as an ICU nurse, did my 4-year bachelor's program, everything. You want to work in, more higher acuity, a surgical ICU, trauma ICU, cardiothoracic ICU. So I did that for a few years. I did a little bit of pediatrics. And then I went to grad school for 3 years, year round. Longest, hardest 3 years of my life, except second to infertility struggle. So I'm going to be honest about that. But through all of that, now I'm a nurse anesthetist. I work in a hospital. And then I also pick up shifts working in a surgery center independently. So, we really do all the things, epidural, C-sections, trauma cases, heart cases, plastic surgery, foot, podiatry cases. So lots of different things that we do.
Wow.
So yeah.
Do you have a specialization then?
We do everything.
Wow.
You can specialize. We really do everything. When I worked in Chicago, I live in Michigan right now. I did the heart team, so the open heart team. So that's a little more specialized. I've been there a lot. Now that I have my 6-year-old, life has slowed down a little. I like a little bit more of the lower stress cases now. But yeah, I need to specialize in OB or, pain, doing blocks. It's a really great field. So, if anyone is watching this and is curious about it, feel free to reach out. I'm an open book about it too.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's actually my first time hearing about this position, and I think it's just really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's great. You're when you get any sort of surgery, most anesthetics given are done by a nurse anesthetist. Actually, we can work independently, or we do a care team model with anesthesiologists. So anytime you get surgery, you're either going to have an anesthesiologist, a nurse anesthetist. You might have an anesthesia resident. So we all kind of work together. So yeah, it's what we do.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned about one of the hardest thing you experienced was infertility besides your 3 years in graduate school. And you had a really great post about how to support loved ones or friends who are struggling with infertility. So why did you feel that such a post is much needed?
It's one of those things. There's a little bit of a stigma around it. There's a little bit of a shame, and that was me too. When I was on my fertility journey, no one knew about it for a long time. I wasn't comfortable talking about it.
I can echo.
It was, it wasn't something you're you feel like something's wrong with you, and the more you tell, it's 1 in 8, it's so common, and it's not something that you have to do alone. And I think too, it doesn't just impact you, but it truly impacts your family. Impacts your loved ones, your friends, and they just want to be there for you. And you don't know what to say. What do you say, to be there for them, So I think just talking openly about it and being really candid and start to, when I speak up and share my story, hopefully gives somebody else the feeling of, hey, I'm not so alone. You know, I have somebody I connect with when it feels so lonely sometimes too, you know, and then just from, you know, somebody who, I mean, literally everyone probably knows somebody who's going through infertility, you know, I mean, it's 1 in 8. So having those tools, just being open about it, like how can you really, you know, help them and support them, I think is a great great, you know, conversation to have with people.
I completely agree. So do you think like a lot of people kind of internalize this grief over infertility?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, it's physically, you know, exhausting, demanding, you know, I mean, especially for a lot of us, you know, you're working full time, you have a big career, you're trying to make it to all the appointments, right? It's stressful, it's emotionally exhausting, you know, your energy feels drained, you know, so I think a lot of times people feel like they have to do it on their own, but they don't, you know, and really just opening up and also working on your mental health, you know, too, can be hugely helpful as well.
Absolutely. So one of the first tip that you gave was not to overshare your experience and to focus on your friend. If you have a friend who's telling you about it, you know, do you feel like our need to empathize with others sometimes kind of like trumps that person's experience?
Totally. Well, I mean, here, first of all, though, like, let's just like back that up too. You're just trying to help, you know, no matter what. And like me being on the other side, and I've actually been on both sides too. You know, there was a time when I finally did get pregnant and I was helping support another friend who's still going through it. Right. So I feel like I've been on both sides now as well. So we know it comes from a good place, but oftentimes too, like you'll always have the friend, all of us have been there. If you've been through infertility, you have the friend like, oh, my best friend's neighbor did IVF 5 times and now she has her miracle baby, thinking it's like going to make you feel better and give you some hope. But the thing is, you hear those stories all the time and you're just kind of like, it gets to a point where you like, it's not that you don't care, but you're just really focused on your own journey right there. And really it's just holding space for them and just being there for them and kind of sitting in that with them as they kind of process everything is the best thing that you can do.
Right. Some friends actually like fancy to be the fixer, you know, for the group. Like, what do you recommend that friend who's like trying to help a loved one that is struggling with the conception, the fixer type?
Well, and I'm a fixer myself. I am somebody like, oh, there's a problem. This doesn't need to be a problem. Let's find the solution. You know, absolutely. And it's like one of those things, like the best way that I can describe it too is like if you've ever vented to a friend or your husband or, you know, a significant other, whoever that is, and you're just venting and letting it out. And then they're trying to fix the problem for you. And you're like, no, I really just need to vent right now. I need you to just hear me out too. But also from like another perspective, you know, this person, like your friend that's going through infertility, most likely they have exhausted all the resources. They've looked into all the options. They've gone down, you know, spirals, looking down rabbit holes, down everything. So in a way, when you're like, oh, have you tried this yet? You're kind of, the person's kind of like, oh yeah. Like, trust me, I'm in it. I did it. I've done like all the things I've tried so many, even though it comes from, you know, a really helpful place. And I think one of my biggest struggles going through it was feeling like a failure. That was really tough for me. And feeling like, okay, I'm failing, you know, to make this happen. And I also felt like my body was failing me too. So it's almost like when people are asking like, oh, have you done other things? Like you're failing at now looking for the options. Like you can't even do that for yourself too. Like that's one thing you have control over. You don't have control over your outcome when you're going through infertility, right? You just hope and throw a lot of money at it as much as you can, right? And you hope that it's going to happen. But you do have control over like the options that you have and the things that you do, you know? So that's also just kind of something to keep in mind. However, from the other perspective, your friend that's going through it might ask you for advice. They might be like, hey, like, do you know some, you know, then like, oh my gosh, well, yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that's something to just keep in mind too.
Right. So if you have a friend who's like having trouble conceiving and then like becoming distant, how do you handle that?
This one's really tough. This one's a tough one, you know, because every person's different. You know, some people want the space. some people are so desperate for a connection and being with people and having something to look forward to, but they literally just don't have the energy either, you know? And it's a lot. Like maintaining friendships and relationships takes work, no matter what. Like staying in touch with friends, talking on the phone, you know, setting up, I mean, and here's the thing, like, who has time for phone dates sometimes, you know, too? Like, when I get on the phone with somebody I haven't talked to in a while, like, I need a good 45 minutes, like, to, you know, like, find that time, you know? So, and I think that's where it comes to, like, I almost got myself into a place where not only was I going through the infertility and in a really hard place, I was also beating myself up that I wasn't maintaining friendships. And I was feeling so bad. I felt like so distant from some of my friends because I felt like a little bit of an outcast sometimes too, you know, like, oh, I'm the only one, you know, and they don't know what to say to me. Like they probably feel bad and awkward around me. And you have all these thoughts going around in your head. And I think one of the best things that you can do for them is honestly, and I'm a big advocate. I think a great tip, honestly, is text message, which sounds silly, but when you text somebody going through this, it gives them time to respond and it gives them time to like process things and think about it instead of feeling like they're put on the spot. Even if like, this is actually a little off topic for us, but like say you get pregnant and you're like, how am I going to tell my friend that's going through this that I'm pregnant? You know, that's one of the hardest things. I think a thoughtful text message, letting them know ahead of time is one of the best things you can do. Because no matter what, you don't know how they're going to be so happy for you. But it's such a tricky thing.
It's a tricky thing.
You're human, right? You're a human being. You have human emotions and you're going to wish it was you. You're going to be jealous, you know, like that's just a normal human thing. And they shouldn't have to beat themselves up for it too. So I think reaching out via text and just saying to them, hey, I know you're going through this. I am here for you. I want to support you during this time. Do you need space? Or would it be fun for me to like set something up for us to get together? Or do you want me to call you? You want to do a phone date next week? Or do you want to meet for coffee? Or anything, just little things like that. And always, 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 I think this goes for anybody, and you guys can comment in the comments if you agree, invite them to everything. Just invite them. They may say no, but knowing that they have the option there and they have the option to like if they need time to just kind of be alone and be a little, maybe they're a little introverted and they need time to just rest because they're just so emotionally exhausted, you at least give them that option, but then they at least feel, you know, included and have that support, you know, so you can kind of lift the weight off of other areas in their life, if that makes sense. So, and I think the biggest thing too is never take it personally, ever. Truly, like if they ever seem distant or short with you or anything, they're not mad at you, like truly they're just going through a lot and they're just going through their own things too. So giving them that grace and just that love and assuming the best in them too, I think is huge as well.
These are such great tips. Like text messaging is a really good tip, and then be really inclusive for all the events and activities you might plan, but also give them the space to decide. Oh my God, these are like such great tips.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, one of the best things you can do for a friend, obviously, is through education, which is what you do as the founding director of Hugh and Grace. So what role can our, you know, personal care products play in fertility? Because Hugh and Grace is such advocates for this.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that, like I said, it's so close to my heart. I couldn't ignore what Sarah and Ben Jensen, the CEOs of the company, were wanting to do. And what really many people don't realize, and what I didn't realize either, is how many products are on the market that you assume is safe because you see it on the shelves at Target, which is a lot why I love Million Marker so much and what you guys are doing. I rave about you guys all the time, but you don't realize that there's also these endocrine disrupting chemicals in it. And a lot of people don't know what they are. We're called EDCs. And they're basically any chemical that disrupts or mimics or interferes with your body's natural hormones and endocrine system, right? And hormones, just like, you know, simplify it too, it's just the chemical messengers of your body. So when you think about this, you know, I've always thought like, oh, it's just a little bit, so it doesn't matter, right? Like, oh, it's just a little bit, so it's not going to really impact. But then it's in your body lotion, it's in your makeup, it's in your cleaning products, it's in all these different things. Laundry detergent, you know, you're layering it every day. The statistic is the average woman puts on 168 chemicals a day. Man is 85, about half. But even unborn children, I know, it's crazy. Even unborn children are exposed to 287 chemicals in the umbilical cord alone. So even our future generations are getting impacted by this, and it's linked to infertility, but it's also linked to other chronic diseases too, so it's not, it's not just that. So the reason I got involved is I was realizing there's no really big regulations around the personal care industry, right? I mean, there's nothing really there, and there's a lot of dangerous stuff on there. So really a way to make the impact is what Million Marker is doing, advocating, educating. And then Hugh and Grace on the other side is provide a solution, which is products that are safe. So it's simple swaps, so average things you're doing personal care right now, but we have nutrition launching tomorrow, actually, and eventually we're going to have home care and cleaning products too. But it's very exciting. But so it's something that I wish I knew early on. Who knows if it would have made a difference, but like now I feel really good that it's something I can control, right? Because there's so much out of your control with infertility, but I can set my son up for success now too, so that hopefully he never struggles with that as well. So that's also, showing your, maybe your friend doesn't know, like, hey, like, have you ever thought about hormone safe products? Like I've been using, that's something that you can introduce them to too. It's just something that a company that they can trust, and we're Million Marker approved, which is great too.
Awesome. So was you experiencing healthcare also prompt you to become such a big advocate for Hugh and Grace?
Yeah. And just, preventative healthcare, doing anesthesia every day. I'm kind of an empath, and when I take care of a patient, I connect with them. I care. I'm thinking about like they have a family. I want to treat them as if they're my own family member, and really like put them at ease, because I'm convinced when like mental state and they're feeling good and they feel connected, they feel safe, the anesthetic goes so much better, So, when I'm there with them, it always like kind of got to my heart, just realizing like we are treating a disease that could have been prevented. We're constantly reacting to disease, and there's so many options now for you to be more preventative, So I was thinking, like, how can I get involved so I can be more preventative? I sleep better at night. It's something that is like, a mission for myself. It gives me a little more purpose in my life outside of anesthesia as well. So that's really what got me, interested in it. It's a way for me to be preventative, as opposed to being part of the treatment all the time. And well, I'm not part of the treatment. I'm the part that gets me sleep for the treatment. But you know what I'm saying. That's the role I usually play, though, too.
I feel like your patients are so lucky to have you, and then everybody else who have, be your friends and get education from you. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So what does like a founding director do at Hugh and Grace?
So really what I do is, you guys know I have a big anesthesia career, right? So this is something I do alongside it. And it's something that I basically use as an extra income source so I can work part-time. So I can afford to work part-time, to be home with my son that I worked so hard for. But really what I do, the more important thing that I do is I work basically with the corporate team, helping to develop our advocate field, but also to help people get introduced to these products and start making simple swaps in their homes to healthier options. I'm somebody who is really overwhelmed with the idea of clean because I didn't understand it. I know anesthesia back and forth. I know biology, but we really didn't learn a lot about these chemicals and things like that, and these endocrine disrupting chemicals when I was in school. It was all completely new to me. And I was always overwhelmed reading, like you had Instagram lighters about reading labels, that felt always really, so it's one step where you can at least know a lot about a company, and that anything that they put out is going to be Million Marker approved. It's going to be safe as well, so just to help people through. I had a little pop-up. Hopefully, if they wanted to look into advocating with the company, helping us spread the mission, I help them get started, help mentor them as well. So two sides to it. It's been something that's been so fun for me, a different way for me to use my brain, and something that's kind of given me more purpose too.
I love it. So what's your favorite Hugh and Grace product?
This one's a hard one because I changed.
Right up to the most recent, favorite.
And I'm gonna say it's the body oil. It was originally our night serum because it truly. I'm a skincare junky. You know, I used to use a lot of different kinds. But this one, it's so simple. You know, I got really great results. It's high performing. But our body oil, which I always like have near me, you can use it for everything. I use it on my son. You can use it on diaper rashes. It's technically an insect repellent because of the essential oils in it, and that does work. I use it in my hair, like as like a hair oil. So I would say that's probably my favorite one. But close second is our new supplements coming out tomorrow too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to ask you more about the supplement that's coming.
Yeah,
because that's brand new.
Brand
Awesome.
new. Yeah, so it's gonna be great. But yeah.
Thank you so much for these great tips, and then thank you for what you do, spreading the message. And this is so awesome. And then also thank you everyone for joining today. So be sure to follow Sarah at Simply Sarah Cole, and then you can learn more about what Sarah do. And then we'll have all the information in the LinkedIn bio, including all the Hugh and Grace stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much for
much.
joining us.
It was such an honor. Thank you so much, Jenna. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, bye.